There's this moment when the kid comes out, you realize the power of creation at the human level. It's not so much a physical event, but also a deeply spiritual one.
Don't you feel like it's a symbolization of creation growth?
You wouldn't go outside and say, oh, I'm going to be a farmer. I don't want a full tomato plant with 30 tomatoes on it. I just want like one or two. It's absurd. You would hope that your child is going to be better than you are. That's the whole point of the evolution.
Why do we get the all-in-presence with the exhaustion?
It is a gift from creation to remind you of true purpose. Density Living, we are back. Oh my gosh, it's been some time. We got 1,000 of these things. They keep sending them to us. It feels good being back in the studio. We've been gone for a bit. We've been busy.
You've really been gone.
Well,
you've really been busy.
Well, you were in Europe too.
Yeah, that was fun. I enjoy Napoleon.
Yeah, Napoleon. Italian, apparently. I didn't realize it.
Kind of Casoro. What's that island where he's from?
Corsi.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, yeah. So,
Corsica.
tell the people the reason why you've been gone.
I've been gone because I had a newborn recently. Me and my wife did. And having a child has been one of the most transformational experiences, frankly, of my entire life.
100%.
There's this moment when the kid comes out, you realize the power of creation at the human level. It's amazing to know that another human being has grown inside a human being because two human beings came together.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so much a physical event, but also a deeply spiritual one.
It's a renewal.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Don't you feel like it's a symbolization of creation growth?
That's exactly what it is. It's
that
the
little
physical.
Yeah.
It's the physical representation of everything that is defined as creation itself.
And what I like when I see a newborn from a spiritual perspective, what I like is seeing two things that is so amazing and beautiful that we forget, and that is innocence and potential.
Yeah,
that's all that's there.
So they need you to care for them. They can't care for themselves. You never let a baby cry it out. They're completely helpless. And up until the moment they start actually making decisions under their own free will consciously, that's when there starts to be a little bit of a distance. But up until then, it requires 100% of your attention. You are fostering so much core rich time and development for a young organism, like tending to like the most delicate crops that are trying to grow. They require a lot of attention, right? And water and resources. You have to do this to build up a good footing and foundation. But in order for you to do that, you have to have some like strong mechanics internally of self-control, self-awareness, and also thinking about in that level of innocence which this child has, everything you're bringing to it in the interaction of its care is opening up its potential for greatness as a human being.
Yes.
Right?
Or stifling.
Yeah. Or stifling.
Well, there's two options there.
And so it's important for you, before even having children, to make sure that you are not internally stifled. Because if you are, it's gonna impress that upon your child. And they're gonna pick up on it because they're far more sensitive. They're not desensitized to this world like you have been for the past, 25 to 50 years. We're greater. Of all these things that it's actually pulled you away from this beautiful growth curve and awareness of everything that's around you in your environment. They're seeing the world fresh for the very first time. Well, actually, not immediately because they're only seeing blurs. The eyes aren't fully developed, but it takes time. But what's going on is they're bringing in all these sensations, and you don't want to stifle their ability to grow and evolve, right? You wouldn't go outside and say, oh, I'm going to be a farmer. I'm going to grow some crops. But I only want them to grow to about a quarter the size. I don't want a full tomato plant with 30 tomatoes on it. I just want like one or two.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Mm-hmm.
No, you'd want the maximum and the absolute best. And you would hope that your child, right, which you're having, is going to be better than you are. They take only the best stuff that actually comes from you. You're not stifling them and giving them a foundation to really step above where you have been. That's the whole point of the evolution itself. And for the first time ever, I can sit here and say you and I are actually both fathers.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of wild, right?
It's cool.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. We've both been through this process, but it's very fresh for me right now.
Do you think, it's so funny when we look at creation or we look at evolution, and a lot of people don't even understand this, that the parents undergo shocking transformations. I'm not even going to get into the woo-woo aspect. I'm talking just biological changes. Mothers and fathers both see increased gray matter in brain areas. The prefrontal cortex grows, the hypothalamus grows. It grows bigger through the postpartum because it has to link emotion and bonding together.
Yeah, it's fun.
So this is like a creational evolution thing.
Your body is biologically doing this work, which you don't have control over, to make sure you have the strongest bond with this new human being. It's also peaking your level of self-awareness. All of your senses are maxed out.
Well, oxytocin is through the roof.
Yeah. And so
that's what creates the...
Right. You got this love drug going through.
Yes.
everything is getting supercharged.
Mhm.
And so your brain is evolving just as much as the child. Isn't it funny that evolution does not stop for any of the parties?
No.
Actually, having a kid actually helped increase the evolution.
Yes.
But the question is, are you going to take all these benefits and use them properly, not to stifle the child, but to actually help them advance, right? To care for them appropriately.
I also think, like, and we were talking about this off air, but the sleepless nights, the constant care, that becomes in the Christian mystic world, or in the Christian world, they call it sanctifying. So there's this sanctifying experience that happens with the chaos. And it can become that space is a way to define divine presence. Like one of the things I was reading about that somebody did, and I don't know if you've done this or not, you probably have, but you know how you do the candle meditation?
Yeah.
They were saying take the child and use the newborn as the candle. So both of you don't say a word. Whatever the baby does, the baby does. But he was saying that you will be shocked how long you can hold their attention just by gazing into their eyes. So you meditate with the newborn and you stare at for you, him, at his eyes.
I'd be happy to try that.
I want to know so what was the flip of the name? Because I love the name. I love the baby's name. I love the baby's name because for me, I like archangels. So instantly, right when I saw, you guys sent me the little card or whatever. So right when I saw the name, I was like, that's so awesome. But the spelling's a little bit different. Why? Am I being too personal?
No, language is a funny thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we'll get into it. And choosing a name for a child is tremendously important.
Mm-hmm.
There's energy associated with names. Just as like you and I having a conversation, there's energy.
Well, of course, like signets, all that. Yeah.
So that
symbols.
There's a repetition of the word Jason. It's building grooves inside your brain, developing your personality. Now, it's very important that when choosing a name, there's energy in that name itself, but also spelling to match that energy. You want everything to be as congruent as possible so that when the child is adopting the energy of this into its personality, everything matches. So we went through painstaking efforts to make sure that when we were conceiving the child, what was our thought process, health, evolutive state at that time, when the child was going to be born under what specific signs, and then finding a name that had associated energy with also the time of birth of the kid. So what we're trying to do is, I'm not trying to stifle anything, but put all available options in place to best support the child himself. Creation happens in brazen regulation. There's patterns constantly. So we want to make sure that the name fits the pattern of his birth. Do you track?
Yes.
Okay, good. So if we take it a step further in language, which is a very finicky thing, has changed so much over time. We wanted to go back to the core energy of early language development in man so that the original tone and meaning and spelling matched the earliest, most primordial energy. And so that's why we chose the spelling for the name Gabrael rather than the
I thought it may have been like a Hebrew thing or something.
No. The AEL it's just a much older versioning before the changes in, the Latin.
So you have the older version.
The oldest version.
Yeah.
And
the beautiful name, by the way.
No, it's a beautiful name. And it means Magda Schöpfung, which was the might of creation. The child's middle name is Rowan, which stands for the one who lives in righteousness. And when you bring all these things together, there's another combination, Chaldean combination of the number energy of the name itself. So now the number name is also associated in perfect congruence with the timing of the birth. So all around, everything is totally synced up. So we were trying to do everything we could to support the child with the natural energy of creation, with the energy of spoken word and development of thoughts into its identity from the absolute root level. And that's why we chose that.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Because, like I said, the name is amazing. And names, people will do like a Britney or something. If you're a Britney, I'm not, anything. But it's like, oh, Britney Spears, I loved her. So I named my child,
No, we didn't do anything like that. And someone's like, well, why don't you just name him after you? I said, absolutely not. I said, I have my own personality. This is my own life.
I
my own
think that's so important. Yeah, to do that.
Yeah.
I named one of my sons after me, and it was kind of like, my first name, which is Troy. So I named him Troy, but it's kind of like he shouldn't be an extension of me or
they never
some surname or anything like that.
They never should. Yeah.
Troy, you can change your name, by the way.
And people are like, oh, when having a kid, there's this idea of, what the fuck can you call it? You do things because of heritage or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, it's like in like Game of Thrones, like they'd fight each other over surnames with the flag.
Yeah, and it's like, for what? And look, I'm Scottish, right? By blood. I didn't give him a Scottish name. I wasn't trying to do that. I was more focused on the energy than trying to keep up with historically what had been occurring.
Yeah, and I think one of the beautiful things that you see, whether you want to call God, universe, whatever, creation, there's this reflection of, especially when you're exhausted, because that's a perfect time to have spirituality. It seems like we have the all moments or we have the beautiful moments, like obviously emotionally, physically, everything mentally, you're at an exhausted point, especially the mother, giving birth, and then you have the birth, and then it's like this all inspiring moment, when you have the birth, in the hospital there. But like for me, the awe and presence, why do we get, from a spiritual standpoint, with the exhaustion, why do we get the awe and presence? And then
I'll tell you.
it's so funny that we're blueprinted designed for that.
No, but I'll tell you why. It is a gift from creation to remind you of true purpose. You have gone your entire life, a vast majority of this planet, completely ignoring the internal mechanics of creation in your own spirit. And for a brief moment, and that's really what it is, it's a couple hours and maybe 30 minutes to an hour of pushing. You see a human being come out, and everything that has always been there to you as an internal truth that you've ignored becomes a very visceral reality quickly. That's what's occurring. And so the reason you feel like you're in awe is because you're in the presence of creation. And you could have that feeling every single moment of your life if you just paid attention to it.
Yes, yes.
But the baby demands your attention. And that's why you feel so much of this awe right now. Even at moments when you're exhausted, creation wakes you up and says, look at the absolute raw power of this. Look at the beauty and love that can come from it.
Yeah, that's so good, bro. It's exciting. I want to do a part 2 on this. We've got to go because we've got 5 minutes before we have a meeting.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a part 2 on this. I think it'll be awesome.
Yeah, let's do that. Thank you, everybody. Looking forward to talking to you soon.